Well, the video's not showing on my Twitch.
I tried that whole beer.
Not for nothing. For alcoholism.
I have to drive.
I can try. Oh, here we go. I'm getting the transition. Yeah. Oh, here we are. I can see us too.
See us.
All right. Are you guys hearing us okay? Oh, well, that's okay. You're useless anyway.
It just shows.
Yeah. It looks like the Twitch is a little bit behind because it's just showing us cracking those beers. Gotcha. Zydilk says there's a lack of sound. Oh, he said he can hear us fine, but they can't hear you. Oh, Chuckle Buddy's in the chat. I love that guy.
Oh, Sean Feathers in there too.
Oh, outstanding. Love that guy.
Yeah.
I learned something interesting this weekend, which is that Rob Symes is really ticklish on his butt.
Oh yeah.
So like if you like even like remotely touch his butt, he laughs a ton, which makes this person's username Chuckle Buddy even funnier because it's like Rob is a chuckly butt and this is Chuckle Buddy.
I also think that it's great that right now we have the opportunity to say whatever we want.
And that opportunity ends right now. I believe I just fucking fixed it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm like trying to fix it, and I heard that, and I'm like, there's just alarm bells going off. I'm like, oh God, no, don't give them free reign. Now, chat, just let me know if that's working now. I hope that's pulled us all together, and we've come together like a lovely group of free love individuals. G'day, everyone. Thank you for putting up with my silence. I was just, standing off. And thank you for joining me, gentlemen, because there are no British accents on this British show today. And isn't that a wonderful thing?
Not yet.
How British are you?
Cucumber sandwiches.
Oh, Dan, let me ask you a question, if I may. How British am I?
How British am I? Bond before you.
So anyway, we're, as we saw, you guys are drinking beers. It's before midday for me, so I am drinking coffee. However, I've never done a sober show, so there's going to be a bit of rum in the coffee, as is tradition, because we got to.
I would prefer you have just a little bit of coffee in your rum.
Yeah, true. It's all the same color. It's real hard to tell the difference. But how are you guys?
Chuckle Buddy says he still can't hear you, but he also said no free love. So
no free.
He couldn't have said that without hearing you.
Yeah, what?
I think Chuckle Buddy's having you on.
I don't.
No, but he says no free love, Dan, and we can't hear you. But you said the words free love. Yeah. I think Chuckle Buddy's having you on.
Yeah, and the problem is that I'm terrible with sarcasm too. So I'm assuming that that's like Chuckle Buddy. Is that the case? Like, talk to me, baby. Can you hear me, or are you messing with me? Because I love you.
Oh no, we've got Mega Nosh says all audio is on.
Okay,
thanks, Mega.
Thank you, Mega Nosh. Chuckle Buddy obviously betraying the stream because he's feeling like this Boston Tea Party that we're throwing here is not. He's not welcome to, unfortunately, because he's English. He's not welcome to this.
Yep.
We're going to throw some tea over the side, obviously, because that's what we apparently do.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Also, fun fact, because everything over here has both like the English and the French translation on it, right? So I'm finding some ridiculous things. So and one of the things that I like is that English breakfast tea is called gout anglaise. So tea is gout officially.
I feel like a lot of people coming over on the Mayflower had that.
Yep, they had a lot of tea and a lot of gout. So over the edge, beautiful. But we're going to talk about a lot of ridiculous stuff today, because obviously none of us are going to take this anywhere near as seriously as the actual good people that do this thing. But for those who aren't aware. Or for people who haven't seen the Wandering Aussie edition of The Honest Wargamer, we start every show with a little segment I like to call Send Nudes. Now, nudes stands for nice, unique drawings everyone scribbled. And basically what no oh god but yeah, they usually do have something suggestive to do with them. So the basically the what we're going to do is I'm going to pull them up on the screen so that everyone can see them. I'm going to describe them to you two gentlemen. Or actually, no, well, if you can see the stream, you'll be able to see it as well. And then you're going to score it on whatever scoring system you want. So one week, my guest decided to score it out of 8 discrete penises. So it was 1 to 8 discrete peens. Last week, they were scored out of a dozen eggs. So you can score it however the fuck you want.
Do we have to have the same scale as each other?
You guys can choose whatever the fuck scale you want.
I think no. I think we should do our own scales each.
So what's your scale going to be?
Well, mine's going to be H to Z.
H to Z?
No, H to Z.
H to Z.
H to Z.
Very British of you.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. You may be as
I'm
British as me.
going to line from common or British all the way to Neville Chamberlain.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so commoner to Neville Chamberlain.
Okay, good. We found our balance. All right, so I'm going to now present you with your first nude of the day. And now, gentlemen, I don't want to get you too excited because you're not going to be seeing like anything like super titillating here, or you might. But Brian Spirello was saying discreet dick is a good one, and also wants to know what type of beer you're drinking. So,
well, I was having a Voodoo Ranger IPA, which will be followed up by an Abita Purple Haze. And
I'm working on a New Belgium passion fruit Kolsch, and then I'm going to follow up because it's a tea party with some hard kombucha, ancient berry.
Hard kombucha, I like it. Nice. All right.
Yeah. So the next
shout out
day...
to Lockie Mulcahy.
Two King Tristan throwing some bits in the chat for 2 idiots. I don't know who the 2 idiots are, whether it's you two, whether it's me and one of you. But yeah, seemed good. And apparently also pointing out that you've seen several nudes, so you don't need me running you through what they are. So here's our first nude of the day.
All right.
Now, our first nude of the day is, it appears to be a little stick man climbing up an almost vertical mountain. There's some clouds underneath, so we know he's high up by the looks of things. And he's saying, still easier than finding a balanced Slanesh list. So clearly taking a shot at Slanesh players for their lists being so fucking unbalanced.
So I'm gonna give that person exactly a commoner because you know what? It's a pretty fucking common thing to complain about Slanesh. I've been doing it all weekend. I've been complaining about Slanesh.
After every game, even when he didn't play Slanesh, like, man, that guy on the table next to me brought on like 10,000 extra points. I hate Slanesh.
So, dude, you know, take an easy shot. Why don't you complain about how bad Gutbusters are?
Yeah.
Or,
so deadly.
No, about how good they are. Like,
yeah,
you know, like,
continually deadly.
Dude, this is the deadliest shit ever. This
They were deadly. They're still deadly. They really deadly. Needed some points reductions.
So deadly. So
it's like Bone Splitters. They're as deadly as ever.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say on a scale of H to Z, I would give it 7. What it does remind me of though is, I don't know if you guys have seen this clip. It's one of my favorite clips of all time. There's a news anchor who's trying to get to the fuck you. All right.
You broke him. You broke him. We're 10 minutes into the stream.
I just had raspberry lager come out my fucking enormous nose.
It's a lot of lager. A lot of nose. One of my favorite news bloopers. There's an announcer who's about to they're talking about going to a break and what's going to happen after the break, and they go, and so right after this we're gonna hear from a man who climbed Mount Everest, but he's gay. No, I'm sorry, he's gay. No, he's blind. And the storyline was that he was like the first blind man to climb Mount Everest, but the anchor couldn't stop saying he was gay.
Oh god! And I love the and this. No, and this. Fuck, I said the same thing. It's like someone, you know, like the autocorrect just being like I have never. Oh, actually, I've never gone to type ducking into my phone. Like, I always mean fucking, and it always autocorrects.
Ever.
And I'm always like, if I'm messaging fucking, I'm usually angry about something, so I'm just fucking typing. And then I'm like, send. I'm like,
we just
damn it.
Typing.
That just took all the strength out of my rage. And then you fucking like fucking again, it sends ducking. You're like, ugh. I meant fucking. They're like, I get it. You're adorable. I'm like, fuck. So I can feel that. So you're giving it a 7 on the H to Z scale.
On the H to Z scale.
H,
yes. Very British. Very
We
British.
know very
Cucumber sandwiches.
That's
Yeah.
true. We need people to feel like they're still
Stiff
in
upper lip and all that.
Yeah.
Stiff lower lip. Everything's stiff over here.
Okay, so good. Okay, so it's got a commoner and a 7. So that's fair, and I think that is everyone is bitching about Slanesh. This next one also feels like someone with an axe to grind against a particular artifact, by the looks of things. And it's funny that we're talking about how basic that complaint is, because this one, it's the Basic Bitch Jewelry Co. And it appears to be Lady Oleana in some kind of hut selling amulets for $2, and then a bunch of skeletons wearing amulets. So my guess is that this is a shot at people who run the ethereal amulet, because everyone's got it. Now, I will say it's not the best. Like, artistically, it's not the best. The skeletons' faces are okay, but it's a poignant point, I guess. So how do we feel about this one, gentlemen?
You go first.
All right, so I can appreciate having bad art of Lady Olinder and skeletons, because as their war scrolls go, they're pretty shit. So I actually think that's an accurate depiction of those units. I actually think it's very clever to have her selling a bunch of ethereal amulets. So that's actually kind of clever, which makes me want to put it a little bit closer to the H side. But what I will also say is that I think that is probably one of the most useful artifacts for a lot of different armies who don't have useful artifacts.
Fair.
So actually, I really appreciate the effort that's gone into that. I'm going to give it a solid Jed, which is how the British say J.
I was going to say ranking British prime ministers from Commoner to Neville Chamberlain. I'm going to give this one Boris Johnson.
Oh, wow. You do not like this one.
But still not a commoner.
No.
Just the bottom line of
just the worst non-commoner.
Not a commoner, but yeah, it's there.
Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm giving it Boris Johnson's haircut.
No, not actually. It's in Ulgu.
It's
Oh yeah.
Not actually.
it's just the haircut though. So it's from my big ass forehead up. Just Boris Johnson's haircut.
Yeah, it could be interchangeable with him or the chick from Die Antwoord.
Oh my god!
Man, remember that one time we got invited on and never again?
No.
Because that was Friday, and this is even worse.
50% of this show is just going to be giggling. This is great. All right. So those were the two freshies.
Our show?
But because you two gentlemen are relatively fresh to this, the two that I had last week were too good not to warrant a second showing. And so I would like your opinion, because they're the two highest scoring nudes in the history of Send Nudes. So I have two more for you. Now these have done quite well, but I say that I don't want to influence you. I don't want to. I want your open and honest opinions.
Damage done. Spoilers already been spoiled.
Totally. So here we go. So the first one, it has a title, and the title is the Old Meta Support Group, and it appears to be a relatively good paint drawing of a prosecutor who's basically having a bit of a rage that net lists and people don't really use or fear him anymore. Because after the loss of Vanguard Wing and Harbinger Chamber and shit like that, no one fucking runs them because they're kind of pointless. So gentlemen, talk to me. Give me your feelings on this one.
I think that's really clever, and I'm sure that the execution makes it more worthwhile. But as far as the length of this punchline, I'm a little underwhelmed, if I'm going to be honest. Underwhelmed. And prosecutors have all the choices to make about units that have been nerfed and are no longer useful. I feel like prosecutors are pretty far down the list of ones that, I don't know, are worth making fun of. What about Sile the Faithless? That's a much better choice.
Yeah.
There's choices in there that are much more obvious choices, but also more people have more experience with them compared to prosecutors. So this is really middle of the road for me. Yeah. I'm gonna give it a Q, spelled with an extra U-E-U-E, because that's very British.
So it's a Q that you stand
There's nothing more British than queuing, Bond.
So it's a Q that you stand in, not the letter. It's an actual Q.
accurate.
Great. Yeah. Well, British people are great at queuing, and if you're in the chat, I defy you, if you are English, to disagree with me on that one. And yeah, I feel that's probably fair enough. People probably might have had a couple of units of
You're not supposed to
fucking prosecutors, but now they've got. But they probably bought like tons of liberators and shit that they never use again. So yeah, fair. I like it.
Also, I'll add, I'm generally opposed to the criminal justice system, so prosecutors get a pretty bad rap from me.
Fair. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Captain Andrew commenting, they're also a shit model to transport, which I think anyone can agree with, given those big fuck off spindly wings. I used to hate.
Yeah, there's a typo. There's a typo in there though. They're just a shit model.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That's a model.
Modal.
Modal.
Model.
It's a new type of poodle. It's a modal. It's like when you you make a poodle have sex with a stormcast and you get this little armored poodle thing. It's really cute. All right. So and on the scale of British peoples thing, how are we do on that one?
I think we're somewhere around like Russell Brand. Like people think that this is a good one. Like your parents think that you would find this funny, but you really don't find him funny. Like all the baby boomers of Britain are like, my kid thinks Russell Brand's the best, and everyone else just thinks he's a cunt.
Yeah, fair.
So,
but I mean, he was with Katy Perry, and for that reason, you have to give for me, I give a big old tick. But yes,
a much lower rating. Have you seen her without her weaves on and without makeup?
No,
she can't sing.
No, she had like a psychotic break, dude. Like she's like nuts.
Oh, really?
But also, I'm gonna say she also dated Riff Raff.
Yeah.
This is news to me, and I love it.
You didn't know that?
That's fucking
Iceberg
great.
Simpson. Shout out to Goon Boss. You know what I'm saying?
He's the white Gucci Mane with a spray tan.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, if a girl's ever going to see me, I want to make sure, lovely drinking in unison there, gents. Like, just fucking nailed it on that one. It's gorgeous. If a girl's ever going to see me, I always want to think that, like, I'm looking at my very best. So I don't deny anyone wanting to look their best for me. But going absolutely batshit insane will come up later in this episode. So we'll put that one away. So basically, this one, it's a Russell Brand. And now, last but not least, this was our last one from last week, and it does feature Slanesh again. It's a little red barn, and there's a sign beside it that says Depravity Farms, and then in the barn, it looks to be a bunch of Stormcast holding dollar bills, throwing them at a Keeper of Secrets on stage.
So I get it. And this references things that I enjoy in my real life.
Girls, goats.
Yeah, girls, goats. That's accurate. Girls, goats. But also, I want to say, what's so great about this is that Stormcast really do feed into depravity points. So there's a bunch of things. More feck. I know, I play them. But I'm going to actually have to give this a Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah, that's top-notch British.
Oh.
Top-notch British. Or the guy who was driving Princess Diana.
Oh, no! Oh.
I might get denied my visa. Come to the Bobo,
I'm pretty sure you just made it on every English watch list ever. So if you've only just tuned in, hey, the Wargaming Dad, just replace everything you just heard with Celine Dion lyrics, and we'll be in the good place. So so this is a Margaret Thatcher or an unfortunate driver. Let's just put it that way. I think maybe the way to look at it. Now,
big shout out, by the way, to our buddy Ty in the chat. He just took second at NashCon and Best Destruction. He won the game that was on the stream with a cheeky hand of Gork and a long 16-inch charge.
It's a 16-inch charge is something that it is impressive, and I don't even think they make rulers that big. I was surprised they made rulers that were bigger than 4 inches, personally. I know that you wouldn't need one that's more than 1.5, but that's fine. Like, everyone's got their own.
He listened to the stream.
Yeah, 6 foot 2 inches, separate measurements.
It's you're smuggling a Tic Tac, and that's fine. But yeah, okay. So on the H to Z scale, what are we feeling on this one?
This is really good. This ticks all the boxes for me. It's clever. It's topical. It can be oral depending on how you take, or a suppository, because Slanesh, it could be any orifice you really are feeling. I'll give it a solid YYZ.
Boy,
Whoa! Why the Rush song?
Well, it's got to be because it's H to Z.
Yeah.
It's almost Z, but not quite.
It's
It's
a
like
bee's
a
dick off. Yeah.
it's like a plus minus. It's not quite a plus plus, but it's A plus
Yeah.
minus.
I got a question. Do the English say W or they go UU?
They say UU. I have it on good authority. Yeah.
That was my favorite toy as a kid. I used to play with my UU all day long. It was still only 2 inches, but still my favorite
Didn't get
toy.
down and back so far, but yeah. Okay, beautiful. And yeah, I like that. For me, this one, I really like that it's also like in-game current as well. It's not just a shot at something. It's also a good bit of in-game reality there, which we all need sometimes. We all need a little bit of reality. Sure. Now, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was Send Nudes for another day. But we're obviously here to talk about NashCon, which you were both at in different capacities. So I guess like
I was sober.
And it depends when you're sober as well. I noticed that Scrivo made it to day 2, which when I was at Crimbobo, he didn't. He had a bit of a big night. He introduced me to a thing called Guinness and Black, which was just absolutely horrifying.
Drink a Guinness off of it? No, I probably can't.
Yeah, no,
but
it's Guinness and Blackberry. English people in the chat, it was horrifying and it wasn't good. But I guess, gentlemen, talk to me about NashCon. It looked fucking awesome. I watched the stream and it was wicked. What were your experiences like?
Yeah, so NashCon is probably the biggest tournament in the southeast of the USA. Considering that Nova Open is in Virginia, which is sort of the southeast, but not really.
It's more central. It's kind of more the north.
Atlantic, east coast.
I mean, it's only Nova Open's only 4 hours from New York City, so you can consider it the north,
right?
As much as you can consider it the south, So.
Yeah, exactly. And so we had 64 players, and that's an extra 25, I think, or 30 spots compared to last year. The venue actually capped our original number of players. We got the cap extended. We got the cap extended again. We could have added more players last minute, but we sort of, at that point, it was a week before the tournament, so we didn't have time to add more players and more tables. We knew how much terrain we already had set up for this. My good buddy David Griffin, who actually runs NashCon, he just had his first kid 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, this baby was like 11 days old, and he was running a tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, so I offered to help out, and what that looked like was helping with the rules pack and also ending up running the stream with our buddy Colin, who produced the whole thing, and then I seduced Rob and Scrivo into coming out.
Did you send them like videos of you dancing? Was that the move?
No, because usually people blow their load too quickly with that, and they peter out.
Yeah.
It was a long con. It involved making several bets and making sure that Rob owed me several heads of cattle. And Scrivo, on the other hand, I've got blackmail on him.
Yeah, you got dirt on him. You're like, that's it, all right. So you twisted the arm to force him into coming.
Yeah. And so NashCon is in some ways pretty typical, 2,000 points, match play, normal scenarios. In a couple ways, it's a bit different than your average tournament, though.
I would say massively different.
Yeah, because every player is bringing 2 lists, and it has to be from the same Grand Alliance, or from the same faction. And you show both of your lists to your opponent, and then you pick one to play. Now, the smart players pick their list based on what their opponent's lists look like. A chaotic player just picks one at random.
Yep.
And a truly mental player lets their opponent pick which list they play. I didn't see that happen over the weekend.
I was going to do that in my round 4.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I kind of want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you did, right?
Yeah, and then I did.
You just screamed Dredge off the table turn 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't even worth screaming.
Did you say something when he took off the model, like, I got you, you stupid bitch?
No, we were in the quiet room. So I was like, hey, I was like, quiet down, dude. We were screaming like,
there was a tournament that I went to, the original CanCon, before it exploded into the big, huge fucking thing that it is now.
You fucking Warhammer hipster.
Yeah.
I was at CanCon before you even
I
knew
was there before it was a cool thing. And so the first year, or the second year, it was the same thing, a 2-list format. And it was actually really interesting seeing people like planning lists around certain things they might face or missions or whatnot, which was really cool. There's one bloke who I think you guys would love from Australia, a bloke named Tim.
Is it Chris Cousins?
No, it's a bloke named Tim, and he did a squig army and then took a squig and painted it gold and at the start of every game he puts it in the middle of the board And at the top of every battle round, he rolls just a bunch of dice and a scatter dice, moves it that way, and his whole army goes after it. And he's like, my army is just going after the golden squid. And so, like, if it runs back into his lines, he just surrounds it with his models. Like, he ignores the battle plan completely because all he wants to do is emotionally break his opponents. Like, he doesn't want to win. He just wants them to be like so. I mistakenly, I made a huge mistake. Remember back when you used to be able to use the change host to swap a Lord of Change on top of a Balewind?
Yes.
So I mistakenly taught...
How did they do that at a point?
No, but
Joe,
people made the argument for it.
Didn't Joe Creer do that?
Yeah, he did.
And then got told no and still did it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Before they'd ruled against it, when you could like summon it with the changeling
Oh,
and then
sure,
swap
sure.
the
Just rewrite
changeling
history
onto
for
it.
us, why don't you?
Whatever. Nazi apologist.
What? I look good in red. But then basically I pointed it out to him, and I just saw his like little eyes light up with evil. And for the rest of like the time before they FAQ'd that out, he would send me subtle like photos of his opponents after he did it to them when they didn't know it was about to happen. He didn't win any of those fucking games, I should say. He is not a great player. He's just a great person breaker. And so he'd just be like, this was his face.
He's us. He's us.
Yeah.
Who did we break? We broke Rob a couple times.
We broke Rob several times. Hey, speaking of breaking people, you should hear his idea for a Halloween costume. Your Charlie Chaplin one?
Oh, no, the tattoo I was going to get.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was going to get a Charlie Chaplin tattoo. He's standing at a podium and he's screaming on top of his lungs. And he's got his hand up, like the sun's in his eyes, you know? And then...
He's got like a nice like Hugo Boss.
He's wearing Hugo Boss, yeah, lots of Hugo Boss.
Yeah.
And behind he's got these big Hindu symbols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taoist.
Oh, yeah.
But like he's also like a big fan of Rush, right? So there's the S's.
He's got it's Kiss.
Oh,
He's got
Kiss.
the Kiss S's.
Yep.
I've missed part of his Kiss shirt. I don't know why, but Anyway, he looks good though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, fuck. I'm looking at the screen. There's a vein in my forehead popping out after just laughing too hard at that. That's good. Good to know that I've got a vein there. Didn't know that. Yeah, that seems like the kind of thing that you could get away with, I'm sure, in public. A facial tattoo, I'm guessing. Like...
Now that you're here in Nashville, probably.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually met... Well, I didn't meet him. I didn't talk to him because he's a fucking Nazi.
Charlie Chaplin?
No.
Oh.
But there was a Nazi dude at a thing I was at in California once, and like Central Valley, California is like 90%. Well, I would say like a good
Republican, yeah.
Well, 90% Republican, but also a huge percentage of Mexican immigrants,
Sure.
like children of Mexican immigrants. And this dude's at like an outdoor food festival, wearing a Screwdriver T-shirt. So I don't know if you know what Screwdriver is, but Screwdriver is like a huge Nazi band.
Okay.
That people always argue. What? Like really well known because they like did a bunch of super racist shit, but they also their first album wasn't racist, so everyone was a closet racist. So it's like Screwdriver's first album wasn't that bad. And you're like, no, you're a fucking racist. You're a Screwdriver. He's wearing a Screwdriver shirt, so we're like, wow, look at this asshole in a Screwdriver shirt. And then he has like these huge swastika tattoos all over him. He's like 5 swastikas. If you're a Nazi, you only need 1 swastika tattoo, bro. Get other tattoos, or maybe you get a cockstica because you're a cocksucker. It's just like a dick and it's bent, and there's 4 of them, and it looks like a swastika because you're a piece of shit. You Nazi fuck.
I think honestly though, Nazis are just the new CrossFit vegans. Because they, no matter
Hot
take.
whatever it is.
I can't wait to hear Rob's opinion on that after we tricked him into eating meat all weekend. It's like tricking a Nazi into fucking a Jewish girl.
That's how I came about it.
But I just think that that's it. They've got to wear the shirt. They have to be covered in the tattoos because they want you to know. They want you to know in the same way that...
Yeah, and if you didn't see the one on their face, the one on their calf might convince you.
It's in case you see them from a different location first. So if when you make eye contact, you're looking at their eyes, they need one here. If you see them from the back, they need one on the back of the neck. If you see them from the calf, they need one on the calf. It's just brand awareness, really, for them.
It's really good because since they all have the same tattoos, it's really hard to identify them after they commit a hate crime against you.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But it also means...
Strength in numbers.
It also means that...
These guys are thinking outside the box. Well, outside the gas chamber, I should say.
Oh, we're in a dark place. We're in a dark place.
All right, instead of me taking have some come out his nose.
Okay, we need to dig up and find the light. And the light is NashCon, which we
Right. So the other interesting thing about
We
NashCon
tanged it
is
off.
that the way they did secondaries
Yeah, there was like
was there's a list
25?
of 25.
Oh, did you see who's in the chat real quick? The dwellers below are in
They're
the chat.
definitely my favorite of all the Rage of Sigmar podcast network productions.
Really? The dwellers below? Is
Yeah.
that Sam Morgan?
Morgan?
I hope not.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a list of 25 schemes, and because we're in the South, Rob and I decided to call them hootenannies.
Of course, yep.
And of those
Hey,
25 hootenannies,
Real quick though, I
yeah,
don't
just
mean to
interrupt me.
Sorry,
Just, you do mean to interrupt
but
you, fucker.
Brian Sparilio is from Fresno. I lived in Fresno.
Yes, so
North
you're
Beach
both,
Ave dogs.
so you're
What?
you're both miserable.
Yeah.
Why are you wasting our time talking about this?
I don't know. I just want to get
All right.
in the chat. I want to get involved.
Then
In
why
the
don't
chat.
you explain schemes?
Schemes? So they're like these little cute little cards that you get, and then when you get them, they're random, and they're all your secondary objectives.
So you get 6 out of
So
the
you get
list
six-
of 25.
So 6 out of 25, and you play 5 games. So you use 5 of the 6. So in my personal experience, I kind of got boned because I got a scheme that was you had to have a totem in your list. I didn't have a totem, so I had to use the other 5. So I just gave the totem one back. I can't use it. So it feels a little negative. They're worth a lot of points. They're worth
they're worth 40% of your score.
So like if you're getting your schemes but losing your games, it's kind of like you lost half a game, which is
Yeah.
cool.
But
they're also a lot of them are tough to get.
I think there's only 3 players that got all of their schemes out of 66.
Yeah, so it's a good score divider.
It is. The problem is, or the intent behind it was that all 25 are published, and what you can do is you can basically make 2 lists to make sure you're covering all your bases for those.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of people are building a list based on the schemes. They're building it based on competitive play.
Yeah, I think that so I said to David I was like, I can't take a totem in my army. I don't have any totems.
You could
He's
ally
like,
in a
you can
totem.
ally it in, and I'm like, yeah, but then I have to buy a model to play in your fucking tournament, so I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Like that's how I felt. Like I wasn't mad about it. I think it's fine. Here, you give me 6 of them. It's not like I got forced to do it once. Like at Adepticon, you were forced to have some secondaries,
or like a shooting unit that can kill something.
Yeah,
fighting
or your tertiaries had like things that you just forced, and the pack wasn't revealed beforehand. You didn't know that was coming at you. So that was kind of bullshit. That's like a forced divider.
Yeah.
David gives us all this information up front. He goes, "Here's all the info. You can do what you want with it.
Build your list accordingly.
Build your list accordingly, and you can do it. It's just like
good. Well, actually, last year he every player got 7 of the 25, and so they picked 5 still. But he said over half the field obtained or got all their schemes, which means it's not a good score differentiator, which means it's not a great metric.
Yeah,
you want to have something that's actually differentiating between players and high skill and like massive success and massive victory versus one that really isn't.
Yeah.
But I still think it really advantages flexible list builds, and I think that for the most part that's good. But also all the high tier armies are all, for the most part, aside from maybe like Fire Slayers, are really flexible, right?
Yep.
Skaven, Slaanesh, Feck all have a lot of flexibility in like and Daughters of Cain too, bringing down models or like teleporting stuff, different movement shenanigans, all sorts of spells they can cast. So a lot of times they have a lot more flexibility than stuff like say Stormcast or Stormcast can be like really flexible, but you see a lot of sort of like original 2.0 armies.
IDNF competitive build. There really is one
exactly.
IDNF
So like flexibility around that, like you're not going to cast 3 spells over the course of the game. You're just not.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
right.
they did a similar thing for Sydney GT, where in its first year that it was a solo as opposed to a teams event, and it was really cool. They did the same thing. I think you got 6 or 7. There were 5 games. And you kind of picked through the ones you wanted to, depending on like what you'd built and all that stuff. It was really, really cool.
Sure.
However, the downside was that it meant that, like you say, like sometimes you potentially could get one you couldn't get. They were pretty good about swapping it. I think the hard thing with stuff like that, and what I always like to see at tournaments, is how TOs police it in a way. Just because it's kind of shit when you have a situation where, like, say people are just lying about what they've gotten, if that makes sense. I mean, I know it's not that a lot of people would do it, and it's kind of...
Are you mentioning collusion?
It's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah. Collusion. Are you saying that collusion is a bad thing in the Warhammer community?
Well, not even necessarily that. It's more
that only bad people collude.
More with secondaries and stuff like that. The one thing I don't like is there's a lot of stuff where you can sneak around with it, right? Like, you can be like, oh yeah, this is my secondary. Oh, and I got it. And if you're not tracking it, and I'm not saying this happened, but I've been at tournaments where it's happened, where people have kind of like used the same one twice because there's no way of confirming. Whereas then at Sydney GT, you had to put it on the table face down with your opponents, and so that
Yeah.
So at NashCon, at the end of your game, you had to give the card in.
Oh,
you were like,
cool.
here's the card.
Right, that's awesome. Yeah.
So you no longer had the card with you. You gave the card in with your score sheet. This is the secondary I used, and you had to write it on your score sheet.
Yeah.
So David could, if someone said, hey, that fucker did this or used the same secondary twice, David could go and look at it. But he had cards back
Awesome.
usually.
That's a beautiful system for making sure. But yeah, I don't dig on collusion, mostly because what's the fucking point of going to an event and like it's like
if you were on top tables and playing your buddy and you could collude for him to win the tournament, and
but if you won, you might have a chance at winning the tournament. But it's a long shot.
Yeah, if you Hail Married and it went off and you won the tournament, or if you just let your buddy not move in a scenario that involved not moving to win the tournament,
right?
What would you do, Dan?
Personally, I don't like anyone enough to give it to them. Like, I have no friends that I care about enough in the world that I wouldn't want to shit mix them, push their poo in, and take the win. So the answer is no. I wouldn't roll like that. However, lots of people pay war dollies for different reasons, and they're probably just not as good as my reasons. Would be,
right. Shit reasons. Shit war dollies, shit reasons.
Yep, that's the one. But no, I do agree. I don't like the idea of it. It's never really been a thing in Australia. The whole like, oh, you give me your favorite game vote and I'll give you mine. I heard of it happening once or twice, and then the people were like resoundingly abused, so they stopped. That's a conversation I've heard happen over in England a couple of times from people, and so it's not really one that we've had.
Wasn't Rob trying to buy sports votes at one point? Or sell sports votes?
I believe selling. Yeah, I could see him do that. We could.
This is his job.
A black market.
Like all he does is Warhammer, so it makes sense. It's
honestly, dude, I told every single opponent I had that they were the best game I had, thinking that they might give me mine, and then I just voted for myself.
So did you get 6? Is that how you got 6 best sports votes?
Yeah, then I got.
Oh no, but you only got 2, right?
No.
Yeah, and then you vote for yourself 3 times, then you vote for yourself for best painted army.
And you still only got 2 best sports votes.
Yeah, like I went to a tournament in Pennsylvania and I won best painted, and someone asked me how much money I had to give them to win best painted.
Yeah, but that person was an asshole.
She's an asshole.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was only $100. So get your fucking pocketbook out.
Yeah.
But the thing is though that like I don't see the point in paying all that money to go to a tournament, go to all that trouble, do it all that shit, to then just...
And leave without prizes, exactly.
Invest more money.
Yeah, no, but see, for me, right, I don't want to win because I hedged the votes or I slanted in and didn't have to do it. I want to win because I beat the best people. Otherwise, it's fucking worthless. Which is why I think it's a shame that there was a bit of a non-game on table 1. But I see how it happens, like...
Well, we didn't say that. I don't know what you're talking about. Definitely didn't hear that from us.
No shade on the players, right? But like, if I was on the top table and I knew that I was in a position to win just by like refusing to do anything for my opponent so I couldn't make a mistake, I see the temptation.
Right.
Like, logically looking at it, I'm like, I see that decision. It's not one I would make, but I understand it. In the same way that I understand kicking kittens. They're shit compared to dogs, and kicking is fun.
You know how many times I've played games where I've let my opponent slide on shit, and then when I made a mistake, they didn't? So I understand to a point why some people will be like, I'm sorry, dude, you fucked up.
Yeah.
If it was like...
Wait,
I'm in my hero phase.
Before. We're not talking about that game.
Oh, no, but I'm bringing that up.
Okay.
I'm segueing.
Okay.
It's called a segue.
Didn't the guy who invented those die on a Segway?
No, it was the guy who owned the company.
I'm pretty sure.
The guy who owned the company was on a test model all-terrain Segway, tried to get out of the way for someone walking on a path, and backed up off a cliff.
Wait, like he didn't like just lose control or like try to do something sweet. He's just like, oh, fucking well, get out of your way, man.
He's like, oh, excuse me, madam.
That pedestrian must have felt so bad.
Also, to die by falling off a cliff on an all-terrain Segway. It's clearly not all-terrain.
It's not all-terrain, just most terrain.
It's not cliff terrain.
It's more than a regular Segway terrain. But yeah, sorry. So go on with the War Dolly Segway.
Someone has to take something back.
So like takesy backsies, right? Like I'll let an opponent slide a lot. Oh man, I forgot this thing. I can't believe I did this. Especially in a tournament. Well, usually when you rock up to a tournament, you put all your models on the table, right? You're like, here's my board. I put all my models on the table. But since it's a 2-list tournament, it's easy to get confused. So
the 2 hags were in both of his lists.
okay, so the guy just made a dumb fucking move and realized.
Well,
but he realized too late. Now, if your opponent does that, and he takes turn 1, top of turn 1, and he's like, oh, I'm a hero phase. Oh, shit, my hag isn't on the table. I'm not going to be like, yo, dude, you fucked up.
Right.
But when it's like my turn happened, and then you're like, oh, I didn't put it on the table, I'll be like, yo, dude, I'm sorry, man, but like a whole turn, half turn of Warhammer happened.
Yeah,
you know?
I can see it both ways. I also, so back to the question about collusion, I think that there's definitely something to be said for, so like, you know, about what, 6 months ago, a friend of ours got accused of colluding. He was tossed from the tournament, or he was zeroed out on that from that game, and he did not make top 8, so he basically lost his chance to hit the podium. But he was, at that point, he'd been 4-0.
All right, tell the whole story though. The TO originally told him, no, you can't do that. So they said, okay, we'll go play the game.
Right.
They draw it out. They said, we're going to take a draw. And then they're like, all right, fine, fuck it. No, you have to play. Okay, we'll go play the game. They played the game, and they actually drew.
Right.
They did their math, and they actually drew. And they were like, no, you're lying.
Right.
But when you're in a position like as a TO, in my opinion, when you make a fucking ruling, you have to own that ruling.
Right.
And they went back on their ruling.
Right.
So then what they really did was just waste 3 hours of their time in Vegas,
and those guys,
where they could have been out having a good time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but what I was going to say is that even in that scenario where we felt like the charge of collusion was unfairly leveled against our friend, it was in the pack saying explicitly.
No, that it wasn't. But that's bullshit, because it was in the pack saying it was a fucking yellow card, and not a fucking ban or a 0. It was a yellow card. Sure. So that's what's bullshit.
No, and I agree.
You have to, the pack is law at a fucking thing, dude.
Right,
So,
and that's the thing about here at NashCon is I don't think there's anything in the pack about collusion, and because of that, it's really hard for a TO, especially retroactively from like hearsay, to take action against those players for doing that. Now, there's a couple of things. So that's one thing that in the future could be done better to make sure that this doesn't happen. The other thing is don't let 2 clubmates play on the top table. There was a 3-way tie for second, so 2 other players could have played on that top table against the guy who was in first, and that would basically mitigate any risk of collusion, or severely limit the risk of collusion.
Can I just say how fucking much I love, though, that we're having these conversations about war dollies? Like, think about it. Like, this is like fucking pro league sport where people talk about like players swapping teams and stuff like that. How fucking good is it that war dollies is at a point where we have to have these conversations? I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying people should be doing it, but I like that.
You're not saying it's good for the game, but it's a good indicator that the game is getting to a place where people.
War dollies is becoming big enough that this is a concern. Now, it's a concern that should be stomped out, but it's super cool that it's there.
It's sex dollies too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say is I don't think it was part of our registration that we had to indicate what club we were in. So that doesn't seem like it was data that.
They were wearing the shirts.
Yeah, but David
knew who.
I'm just saying the man has a lot more shit on his plate than to be worried about who are fucking playing each other.
What, like an infant or something?
Yeah, exactly. Oh. So you need to put that algorithm into your pairing, and I know there are pairing apps that do that will like avoid club pairings. Like if you only have 2 people and they're both in the same club, you have to make them play each other.
But if you've got 3.
Yeah, you could easily make that switch. It would be worth making that switch.
Yeah, just to avoid any chance of something going wrong.
That said, like every tournament, I guess, has their own thing. Like there's 2 tournaments I'm going to shortly here, one of which very competitive to the point like no realm rules, no realm spells. There's not even any terrain rules, so no rolling for terrain.
Is there terrain?
There's terrain on the board, but no terrain effects. So like no sinister inspiring.
That's dumb. I even have terrain on the board.
Yeah, what's the point?
For cover and for like positioning and stuff like that, because if there's
but hills don't provide cover anymore.
But if there's like movement blocking stuff and things, the point being that it's like because you have so many games where say it comes down to if Nagash gets set up on fucking Mystical or something like that. So I kind of dig that in a pack the TO has basically gone, this is the type of event that I'm running. If you want
this is how I want Warhammer to be played.
If you want to play it, come in. And then there's another tournament I'm going to, full realms, full fucking everything, like just everything put in there, and
full potato. Never go full potato.
Whole hog.
It sounds like
whole hog.
That sounds like it'd be a fun event to bring to guests.
Yeah, right. But then basically also on top of that, going in deep, like super deep with just access to everything. So I believe all the realm spells, all the everything, and all the missions are the random ones. So it's like, they're just going in hot and heavy like a sack full of cats up to the elbow. So fuck. So I kind of dig that tournaments like are now clearly defining what they are. But I think you are right.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to split, like if there's going to be those little questions in there, if you're going to be a GT, it's a lesson to learn moving forward to avoid those situations so it doesn't fucking happen. Or say to your opponents, hey guys, like it's
Oh
still
shit,
a game.
Scribbo's in the chat.
Yeah,
He's
he
logging
made
in.
his flight.
We're gonna steal your show, bitch.
He made his
We're gonna
flight.
steal the fuck out of your show.
Baby.
Who is?
Scribbo?
They
I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, Mr. Scrivens.
One who used to run Blackout? Bobo.
Black
Blackout.
Bobo. Black Bobo?
Guy who was here this
Yeah.
No, that was Rob. Rob. I'm
Rob.
Hi, I'm
Rob from the Honest Walkabout. I'm Rob.
But yeah, so
Jon
So
Snow.
like super quickly, for those who haven't seen the results, I'm just going to quickly pop them up here. Daughters of Cain came in first. Flesh Eater Court's third and fourth. Slanesh up there as well. Yeah, shoot. Woo! Getting in there. 29th place out of how many? Okay, yeah, good, nice. It's top half. That's got in there. That's 51%. That's a pass. But like in that top section, right? So like the top, you look at the top players, right? Daughters of Cain, Flesh Eater Court's in there twice, Slanesh, Stormcast twice, Deepkin. No, I'm skipping it. Don't worry, I'm skipping it for a reason. I'm not burying the lead. I'm building the fucking drama that on top of all of that, Nurgle snuck into 9th, Ironjawz snuck into 8th, but Ironjawz also got fucking 2nd! Jesus Christ!
Heard that and not the collusion non-game that happened on table 1.
Insane! Fucking Ironjawz getting 2nd and 8th. Like, I'm stoked. Like, getting 8th, I would be talking about. I'd be like, Ironjawz got in 8th. Fucking power to Ironjawz. But the fact that they also got in 2nd.
Dan, it looks like we lost our audio.
You just lost your audio?
That's what we're hearing. That's what everyone's saying.
Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Sorry, we're back now. We should be back now in the good place.
Are we back?
Mama,
we should be back in the good place. But yeah, basically I just can't believe we'd be talking about them in
Everyone's
8th.
like, Dan, how long has this been going on?
We'd be talking about them.
This has been Dan's monologue featuring the faces
Yeah,
of
that's
Sigmar.
it. Yeah.
Are we
We are back. We are back.
We are back!
But yeah, the fact that Ironjawz are in 8th, I'd be talking about that. But they're not in 8th. They're in fucking 2nd as well, which is just batshit insane. That's amazing.
Because all the Ironjawz players in America are the greatest Ironjawz players ever. I will bring that.
What does it mean? Oh.
Trying to start some shit.
Oh yeah, okay, go on.
But
Yeah. Well, tell me about the kind of shit you're trying to start, Joe.
I was gonna say that like English and Irish and Scottish and all the ishes,
Right.
Whatever they are.
Blackish.
Yeah. Brackish. Pretty much anyone. You can't fuck with our Ironjawz players because we all do look like orcs.
Oryx.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I'd buy that.
Live in
Also,
New York.
Also, the same level of intelligence, I would say, as well, is a big one. You know, like you understand Ironjawz on an intrinsic level because of your schooling system, right?
Dan, when I see you, I'm gonna put you in a fucking armbar.
I'm a lover, not a fighter. You'll win that fight in a heartbeat. I'll just roll over and start licking your elbow. I'll be like, please, sir.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, there's no fight in this dog. But yeah, I kind of dig that, right? Like, and it was such an interesting game to watch. Ironjawz playing like a tactical, but then also not tactical game.
They played it very Ironjawz.
Yeah, definitely. And in the end, they took
the late game commentary on that game was the best.
Yeah, well, someone drew a dog and some happy faces and some
Yeah,
sad
it
faces.
was interesting. It's also the first time that Rob ever gives you access to that. It is very hard not to.
I believe you mean first and last.
Yeah, and also how often the discussion became around like who was the most British. That for me was really important. That was really special.
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Joe's British.
I'm definitely the most British. I got my DNA tested, and it says I'm 23% British.
Okay, nice.
Didn't even know that.
Turns out his uncle is a cucumber sandwich.
Yeah.
Neville Jam.
But yeah, I kind of dig that.
Come to the Scottish Literary Club.
Yeah, I go to the literary club every weekend. Just read.
Have high tea and read a dictionary.
My tea bags in.
What?
I said you have high tea and you read a dictionary.
Exactly.
No,
he doesn't even put
Dictionary. Are you for real, dude? First off, I read the Sookie Sackhouse Chronicles. Second, I eat cucumber sandwiches. Okay.
Yeah, and he doesn't even drink tea. He's so British, he'll actually just open the tea bag and chew on the herbs.
Yeah, right.
The herbs.
Yeah, he just.
Who do they say herbs?
Yeah, from H to Z.
H to
You
Z.
got to be a real
H to
flexible
Z.
man to teabag yourself as well. So like that's impressive. That's a high level of teabaggery.
If I could, I wouldn't leave my house.
Oh God!
Have you heard the one about the man from Nantucket?
I've heard a lot of the ones about the man from Nantucket, bending over backwards to dump his own bucket. But yeah,
That's a good one.
that was a little. I just farted that one out of my brain in the moment. I'm quite pleased with myself. Give myself a pat on the back there. So apparently, the chat is saying that. I'm in some trouble. I think I'm going to get a swirly from Tomb King Tristan.
Oh, Kit Kat Blizzard. That sounds like he's going to tongue
I
punch
know.
your
I
fart
don't
box.
know what a Kit Kat Blizzard is, but I'm scared of that.
We're not on here.
So,
The bottom floor, dummy.
oh,
Just me now. We are
we need
back.
beers. We need beers, right? We're reloading.
Several-
But yeah, I just think that like fucking Ironjaw's in second, right? And I got to say, Nurgle sneaking into the top 10 as well. We haven't seen Nurgle do well for quite a while, so
No, we
yeah,
haven't.
I'm digging it. I also like that. I believe the second and eighth, they're the two players that played each other, right?
I believe so. If the one in eighth, or you said ninth.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Eighth was Mike Oliver. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, he ended up finishing pretty high. One thing that we also try to do is give a big point bump for paint scores, and he ended up taking best paint.
Oh, wicked, yeah.
So that it does end up, I think, playing out like a minor win if you win best paint, and I think it counts as a draw if you get a paint.
Well,
nom.
and like I got to say, like for everyone who donated to the GoFundMe to get the new cameras as well, go back and watch the coverage because there's all this fucking cool stuff where they zoom right in. And
if you haven't
beautiful.
if you haven't checked out the first game coverage, it was
yeah.
terrific because the guy was really inspired by a lot of the Napoleonic games, and he had little fire markers, and that they had keys inside of them when his handgunners had shot. He had a Celestant Prime that was sitting on a cloud that had thunder going off on it, and every time one of his big griffins died, he put down a giant cloud of smoke.
It was great. It was like a fucking live game. Like watching all this stuff happen. It was so cool. And yeah, it was fucking awesome. It inspired me to do similar stuff as well. So I'm like, how can I make that happen? Yeah.
Right.
And
you could do it. The great thing for you is if you do it with your dispossessed, you wouldn't even have to move it when you're playing the game because your movement is so slow. You wouldn't even have to remove
and
any
that's the thing,
tokens.
you know, like people talk about bumping the table to move models up. I bump the table just to move my models, like full stop. Like if I give it a little shoulder bump, like they just shuffle forward a few inches. I'm like, that was what my movement was. So yeah, that was a fucking awesome round as well. And I know everyone has their own opinions of this, so I'm actually keen to ask you gentlemen what your opinion is. Because some people want...
my opinion is no.
Okay, it's just no. Well,
I haven't played
it was,
that yet.
yeah. Okay, fair. Yeah. Do you want to throw a blind opinion in there as well?
From Commoner to Neville Chamberlain.
Trying to think of another British person. Graham Norton.
Okay, Graham Norton's. Okay, well, so the opinion that you're answering for, that I will now ask you the question on, is like in a tournament, how much do you like? I hate the word soft scores. I prefer the word like hobby or play scores. So like painting and sports or gamesmanship and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think people mistake in Australia. We weight sports quite heavily, but they're very just. Did he just run off like a raptor in the background? We we weight sports heavily, but it's not like it's not, did you love your opponent? Did you guys make out after the game? How many times did you touch each other? It's like, did your opponent explain their rules clearly? Did they roll their dice where you could see them? Were they on time? Were they tight and fair with their measurements? You know, it's shit like that. That's the sports scores in Australia that we add to scores. So my question is, do you guys prefer a tournament where it's just the game side of things, just gameplay and potentially secondaries? Or do you prefer game scores that are overall and encompass painting, gamesmanship, all that kind of stuff as well?
Okay. So I think that it depends on what awards you give. So if you're giving a best overall is highest score, best paint, best sports, all combined. That's what overall means. So if you're going to give best general as only, which I think is stupid because that encourages poor. This is why I think it's stupid, right? Because if we become Magic the Gathering as a community, you know what I mean? If we become like War Machine, fuck it. You walk through War Machine, it's always a bunch of fucking assholes with half-painted bullshit, gray plastic. I don't fucking go through all the shit I go through the hobby. Like I do paint pretty well.
Third best of a room of 66, if I was to say.
For both paint categories.
Yeah,
that was
both
pretty cool.
Paint category and Player's Choice. No, you just have flicks.
So for me, the way I feel is like, if you're going to give out that best overall, don't just give it to somebody who did the best overall score. That's dumb. They're the best general. That's cool. And I'm totally fine with a tournament doing it that way if they do it that way. But if you're going to say that you have a best overall category, that should be for the people who also encompass the hobby completely.
Yep.
Because the hobby as a whole benefits from people like Vince Venturella coming to a tournament, because Vince's shit was amazingly painted.
Unreal.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and then like Danny Paints, give a big shout out to our boy Danny. His stuff's amazing. You see Oscar Lars' stuff, you see Tony Pacheco's stuff, you see Mike Scoletti's stuff, you see all these dudes that are painting really incredible armies, and that should motivate the rest of the community to continue painting nice armies, because it's so much a better experience to sit down at a table with somebody who has a really nice army.
Just put a ton of effort in.
Good.
There's LEDs everywhere.
It feels like this guy's on the same page as you to create that like immersive experience. Because like we're doing this thing that we're trying, like no one wants to play fucking Ninth Age because it's like this. The fucking hill's square. It's 1 inch tall. And that's a hill. It's always the same size.
Well, you just print it out and then you laminate it and put it on the table. That's how it works, isn't it?
Exactly. You just eat.
No, here's the problem. Is like in the first
no carbohydrates
right,
the whole way.
Keto.
Yeah, you carb crash the whole way there.
Yeah.
So on the overall, dude, like if you're gonna run an event, you have to decide what kind of event you want to run. If you want the most competitive, I don't want to say douchey, but that's the only word that I can think of. If you want the most tight, we only care about the competition. We don't care about anything else.
Type A competitive, cutthroat, win at all costs tournament.
Yeah, the type of people that you would like to see not at your event if you're looking to have fun, like. That's on you, dude, but I'm not going to be registering. I'm not going to show up. Like, I'm going to go to the event that's going to be fun, that's going to care about sportsmanship. I think the algorithm, like you were talking about for Australia, they had, like, was your opponent on time? Did he explain school rules? Did he do that, bro? That's good. That should be part of it. Also, the next question should be, was your opponent a fucking asshole? Because someone could be an asshole and do all those things.
Or, like, did at any point something your opponent did make you feel bad about the game?
Yeah, or at any point did your opponent challenge something about what you were doing in a way that
made you feel like you couldn't play your rules properly?
Yeah, right? Because like
there's an appropriate way to do it, and like calling a judge isn't an inappropriate thing to do.
No, you could
after you both look at your rules and you come to a point where you're looking at the same text and you don't agree. That's okay.
That's fine. Like say, hey, bud, listen, I'm perceiving this the other way. Why don't we just get the judge here?
Yeah.
And then the judge can come over and he can make his ruling on whatever it is. If he rules for me or you, that's what it is for the rest of our game.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but a lot of people, unfortunately, in this community can't handle that either. So, my number one thing I would say is that if I ran an event, because I was recently at an event where two players played each other and it had a terrible game, I would tell those two players that couldn't get along or had a really shitty time, it's time for you to both take a fucking hike. Because if you can't act like an adult, because when you're having a negative experience with a player at your table, the table to the left and the table to the right of you are probably all getting a bad experience.
It's not two people, it's six, and then all of your friends who have a bad experience too.
Yeah. Yep. And then, and then you just drive out of the tournament like an asshole and hit somebody in your car.
Yeah, well, she deserved it. So I would, she was the one who hit the person's car. Everyone was fine.
Yeah.
But I'll agree with Joe, and I'll take it a step further. Recently listening to a show, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called The Dwellers Below. They're part of the Rated
I
Signal
have
podcast network.
heard of and love Smorgan in all the
Yeah.
photos
Are you guys from the
everywhere.
same neighborhood? You guys went to high school together, right?
Did you grow up on Parkland Drive?
We just all together, right? Like that's our countries are just pretty much just bum buddies. So it's nice and easy.
So did you see I Killed the Prom Queen before they put out music for the recently deceased or after?
Oh God, I could not tell you.
I am reaching, aren't I?
Yeah, really.
I don't know.
Favorite Men at Work song, go.
Oh mate, Men at Work can you have a favorite? I mean, obviously, YMCA
hold on, better
is
question.
perfection,
Can you
but
have
in the Navy.
only one song.
They had two. Who could it be
Oh
now?
no, that's right. Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking Village People. Yeah, but they were men at work.
That work road laid down under, bro.
But
You're the worst.
who can it
Aussie
be
ever.
now had that amazing saxophone riff? Can I tell you a secret? Can I tell you a secret that I'm going to share with you in the stream and I have never told anybody else? I spent 8 years learning the alto saxophone because of the fucking saxophone riff in Who Can It Be Now?
Do you have your saxophone on you? Because we can riff for a little bit while
I
you go
do
get
not.
it out.
It's in Australia, unfortunately. So there we go. Because of that fucking song, I learnt to play the alto sax, and then I found out that the riff in that is actually played on a tenor saxophone, which is a completely different system to the alto sax, and they are not transferable. So yeah.
Can you play Careless Whisper?
Oh nope.
Can you play the intro to Saturday Night Live?
No, but I can play. I think fucking a bunch of those ridiculous songs that I learnt in the 2000s because it seemed like a good idea. The saxophone is never a good idea.
Unless you're in a ska band,
That's
which
true.
would be awesome.
Or a jazz
Also,
band. Jazz band too.
Actually,
that's
there's a
not cool.
death metal band called Rivers of Nile now that has a saxophone player in it, and it's fucking
Wow, that's
insane.
fucking awesome.
It's so dope. Yeah.
Anyway, that's not talking about that. But
Yeah.
what else?
So, talking about how different TOs balance the three main categories: sports, battle, and paint. Lord of War did something different this year, where they actually ranked every player from 1 to Z, and for both battle, paint, and sports, and then they took the average for the highest for, they didn't call it best overall, but they called it like ultimate creeps or something like that. And I really like that because not only does it equally weight all three of those categories perfectly, you actually are going to automatically stratify everyone with the exact same difference. The difference between 1 and 2 is the same difference between 2 and 3. But in a lot of these tournaments, if half of the field gets a perfect paint score, the person who got best paint and like the middle of the middle of the talent pool got the same paint score, and there's no stratification there.
Didn't Adepticon they said like 65 people had the same sports score?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like 100. It's like it no longer actually like differentiates the player, right? Oh, 65 of us all have the same fucking paint score.
Yeah.
Right, so it had to go
means
like 4 rounds of tiebreakers.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a really interesting idea, and I would say it's definitely lit a fire behind me on how I would want to run a tournament.
Think for me, the reason that I like to see painting included in the overall score is because I want to rock up to a tournament and I don't care if my opponent isn't as good a painter as me, and God knows I've played people who are significantly better painters than I am, right? But I still want to turn up and play against a painted army. I don't care if it's 3 colors and a shade because like that's all you care about. But I remember playing Warhammer Fantasy and winning best painted at 2 different tournaments because I was the only fully painted army. The
brag is not cool.
But yeah, right? And like the amount of God, I feel like you two are going to about launch a nuke at some country. But yeah, I'm so glad that that's not a thing in Australia, in Warhammer in Australia in particular, because a lot of the times there's painting requirements, and I like seeing them come in. So that's why I don't love seeing a best general, because it's like, well, you could just have a grey plastic army, you built up to that, and you just fucking shipped it out to get the win. So yeah, I dig it. I think I'm in the same place. And in a perfect world, everyone would get a perfect paint score and gamesmanship score. So yeah, I dig it.
Disagree. No, disagree. Having a varied field is what makes it worthwhile. People are going to be at different places and coming in from different, maybe I don't think I would like living in a world where everyone paints as well as Vince.
Yeah, true.
Just automatically. But I like that there's different styles and different takes, and some people aren't good at it, and that's okay because they're working on it. And also, we would have nothing to talk about if people didn't rock up with shittily painted like orange dry brushed or orange zenithal highlighted army.
That's true. Yeah.
So like, I like talking shit.
Especially if it was like an orc army that looked like a chaos army from afar.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you look anyway.
And what, from across the room?
And had a whole baby as the back of his neck.
Hypothetically.
Just completely hypothetically. Well, but then
it was like someone took a picture of Elvis Costello and tried to like size it up, but only dragged from the side.
Honestly, isn't that the guy like cheats a lot too? We're putting a lot of people on blast
that's
today,
fine.
aren't we? This is live.
To be honest,
and another thing, Jake.
And another thing, you piece of shit. There was a tournament in Brisbane once that I went to, where I was walking around looking for who I was going to vote for my favorite army, right? Best painted army or whatever the fuck it was. And I walked past and I was like, oh yeah, that's just a really well painted Hammers of Sigmar army. And then someone was like, no, just look closer. And I was like, yeah, whatever, what the fuck. And like I looked at it and it was non-metallic metals across the entire army. But it looked so good
I love those
as
comments.
I walked past that I just assumed it was highlighted metallics. And I was like, fuck. And yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was so good that like you couldn't from a distance tell the difference. So I was like, fuck it, man. Like that's the kind of painting that I wish that we could all get to, or like we could see more often. But I do think you're right. If everyone has it, it's not really that impressive.
Right. If everyone's special,
no one's special.
Nobody is.
Okay. That's good.
But no, I dig it. And so for that reason, Iron Jaws coming in
Everyone's
hot.
retarded. Trump is president.
I mean, when that's the bar, everyone's special, right? You know when.
That's why we're at the bar.
You know what the thing is though about Trump being president is that now.
Please tell me.
Neville's chain what?
Can you please explain it to me?
When parents tell their kids, you can be president if you want to, they're not lying. Anyone can be president. You don't need credentials.
As long as the kid's not like...
No, that's actually the worst thing about it. You can make a joke about it. For us, we live in a dystopian nightmare. But now Oprah Winfrey could run for president, and she has no qualifications.
Either.
Yes.
Either. Don't make it sound like she's not qualified.
There's actually literally any asshole now can run for president. So, without further ado, I would like to announce that Jacob Berry will be running for first Hebrew president of the United States.
This is amazing.
Sons of Abraham.
I can't wait to see what your cabinet looks like and what your stance is on so many things.
Rich Mahogany and Captain Morgan.
Good, yes. Like Rich.
I would say that our PM to Britain would end up being Rob Symes, and to Australia would probably be Coach.
Yeah, yep, that's a good. I reckon so. They're two very good people.
Fits with the current political climate.
It's 2020 is going to be a big year for you, gentlemen. Obviously, I can't wait. But look, I guess. We probably should start to wrap it up in a little bit.
We haven't talked about Warhammer.
Yeah, we're still going to talk about War Dollies.
I thought this was the intro.
But I guess I wanted to ask you, Joe, your experience at the tournament. Sure, we didn't necessarily shoot right up to the tippity top. We got there that mid-range, but on the field, like playing the games, how did it feel? Like, what was the vibe like on? Because I feel like every tournament kind of has a different vibe on the tables. And so, what was it for you?
So I had a big round one grudge first turn against the Lord of Death.
The former artist formerly known as Lord of Death.
Because I'm the Lord of Death now. I wiped him.
Long live Lord of Death.
Yeah. He would have did better if he brought a comb with him. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, continuing on. And then I played Slanesh twice in a row.
So you were 1-2 at the end of day one.
Yeah. And then I went down to the kitty tables with a really broken Fecklist, and I screamed an entire Sylvaneth army. I screamed all Sylvaneth army off the table, and then I went and proceeded on to scream an entire Ironjawz army off the table. And those were my last two games. But I would say everyone was awesome. The people were great. But it was kind of honestly, dude, if I'm being honest about myself, I don't get a lot of time to play Warhammer. So I play mainly at tournaments. So I'm not like one of those dudes that's like,
I get 4 games a week.
I get 4 games a week, and then I collude with my buddy on top tables to win the tournament.
It's more like you get 5 games every time you can make the excuse enough to get to a tournament.
Yeah, like in this tournament, I wasn't really in my element because I have my wife and my baby with me, so I didn't get completely shitty drunk and like not remember whole games. And
Sleep under a table.
Sleeping under a table,
in
yep.
between rounds.
End up with nothing, not wearing anything but bronzer.
Yeah, no, I haven't done that.
Yeah.
You could pull it off, though. You could pull it
You
off.
think we've practiced this, and I'm going to tell you the truth, we have.
Yeah, 100%. But on the overall, dude, the NashCon was just great. These dudes are great. Everyone down here is awesome. Being from, I don't really get to meet a lot of these other dudes a lot. So like, so let me tell a quick story about my last NashCon. I wasn't playing AoS. I was playing Bolt Action, and that's why, because when I quit, when 8th edition took a shit, and the options were 9th Age, which was bullshit, and AoS, which didn't really have rules yet,
And Malifaux.
and Malifaux, which was way too complex for somebody who lives and works like me to learn and be good at. So I was like, playing Malifaux was like, show up, meet my buddies who like work in tech and have these easy, I'm chilling jobs after I've been killing myself outside all day just to make meager scraps.
And suddenly you need to be
You make
counting
so much more
cards.
money than
Yeah.
You make probably twice as much money as I do.
Says the guy who owns Chateau de Berry. Anyway.
In fucking Mount Juliet.
Yeah. Anyway, like, it's just
Do you not like the fireplace? I can
too
turn it
exhausted.
off.
I'm so fucking hot right now. It's like
It
95
looks so
degrees
good, though.
Okay.
It looks so good. Like, I mean, it's
Like-
the middle of summer, but you two look like you should be lying on a bare skin rug naked playing the saxophone for me. Or I can play the saxophone for you while you guys lay on a bare skin rug.
We were doing that before we did this, but we had to get dressed.
Fair, yeah.
So,
Right. This is the most physical fucking background shot ever. What I'm waiting for is someone else to walk through the background. No.
If we can just get a GoFundMe started for my medical bills, because I think I just broke my entire back.
yeah, that's okay. We're gonna make the fake one for Rob Symes' fake heart surgery.
Good.
So
Yeah, to
money,
keep
here
him
we go.
going.
Profit.
Sorry.
So I was playing racist action, and I kept meeting other racists. Well, not other racists, just all racists.
Right.
Just racist. I just kept meeting people I didn't want to hang around with. I got NashCon last year. I played 3 games of Bolt Action. In turn one, round one. I got talked to about having a beer. They're like, it's kind of early. Don't you think? I was like, first off, you don't even understand my alcoholism. I don't know you.
I have not even yet begun to
Second
drink.
round, the guy was a fucking douchebag. Like, my wife came up mid-game, and he was like pissed that she was talking to me in the middle of the game. Yeah, and third round, the guy said, he was like, how do you deal with all them Muslims in New York? And I was like, first off, dude, if anyone gets to be upset about 9/11, it's me. I lived there. My dad was downtown. I lost family and shit. And I don't blame a whole religion for it. Second off, fuck you, dude. What is wrong with you?
I think you broke him. We did it.
What? I don't have words. Why would you say that to someone at a game of War
Remember when you
Dollies?
thought it was too early in the day to be drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, for real. I'm also like 22% Middle Eastern on my genetic scale.
Oh God!
There it is.
We just went straight to the Kraken.
Just need to whoa on that one. Fuck. I'm struggling. I'm still struggling to comprehend the kind of humanity.
So that was day one of the Bolt Action tournament.
Just how do you deal with that?
So it was only a 1-day tournament, so it was over, and then the next day I spent hanging out in the AoS room while Jacob played. I met David. I met a bunch of the guys involved. Our buddy Mike Scaletti was here playing AoS, and I just sat in the room. I walked around. I met other people. A good friend, Luke Snell, I became friends with, and like these dudes were all awesome. They were the type of people I wanted to be hanging out around. They were having a good time. We were laughing. We were all joking around, and like super inviting, super friendly, and not nearly as sweaty, like, I'm here to win, I'm here to do,
and they're also not 65 and like
racist.
Really into white power. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
potato for dildo.
So at the end of the day, I was like, as soon as we left, I was like, dude, I'm buying an AoS army. I'm gonna get back into the hobby. I'm gonna paint fantasy stuff, because even if this game sucks, at least I'm going to hang out with people I like. And then eventually, I mean, like, AoS 2 had just come out.
Right.
So AoS 2 made the game exponentially better. So, and like, the game's really fucking fun. I really enjoy it now. So.
And that was basically because NashCon is normally in June, got pushed back to August this year for scheduling reasons. But that was actually pretty much the impetus for us starting the Rage of Sigmar podcast, which then became the Rage of Sigmar podcast network, which is why you're able to get the Honest Wargamer on Twitch. And
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yep. We also are. because of that, we're able to have our Australian contingent, the Dwellers Below.
Yep.
And we
Also
we
our-
did have our Midwest contingent with the cubic shenanigans, but I'm pretty sure you killed Brendan. So
Yeah, Brandon.
Murdered?
Brandon.
Just
Yeah.
straight up murdered?
Yeah.
well, he was the Lord of Undeath.
Now he's
He's just dead. Just straight dead.
Yeah.
Good.
Hashtag tactics.
That's what happens when you make a challenge against someone and then you change your army to Crystal Core and then still lose.
Fuck.
I love
That's
it.
rough.
Just saying.
See,
Sharks
you know
fired.
what I
Yeah.
found horrifying is that a couple of times over the weekend I found myself barracking for Flesh Eater Courts. And I was like, who the fuck have I become?
Right. Well, we all were rooting for them against Vince in that game against Slanesh because
Yeah.
Vince just keeps bringing on new models. And man, I love Vince. He's a great dude. But you're playing with 3,300
Yeah,
points,
yeah.
and it's still really close.
It does actually go to show and I know it sounds dumb, but I feel like how close it is to Slanesh being right. And I know that might upset people because I've seen Slanesh games where they've summoned like 1,800 points on top of whatever the fuck they started with. But I would say that it's so close to being right because I still see those games where they summon 1,800 points and the other player's still in
They
it.
still. Yep.
Well, you know what somebody said to me, and this is going to sound like that, but I don't want to offend any Slanesh players. Just kidding. But the army's so easy to play that they make dumb plays. That they do dumb shit because they don't have to think about it because the army fucking plays itself. And I'm not salty. I'm not mad.
I told myself I wasn't sorry.
But no, it's true because they lean on the army too much. So a lot of players who are like don't understand how to play the game and be good at the game,
They can just kind of do that.
they can totally like Flesh Eater Course and Skaven are a bit of a crutch. And I play Feck and you play Skaven, but
Right.
you know you can lean on that army. Slanesh, you could be fucking retarded
Oh, so in game
and
5.
lean on that army.
Yeah. So in game 5, I walk over and I'm watching Vince playing. He's on table 2.
Yeah.
And he's been playing against this Stormcast guy. And it looks like Vince has his full army still there. I was like, man, and Vince goes, I don't think I can win this. I was like, what do you mean? How many depravity? I was like, oh, I have 0. Everything except for these 5 models over on the side, I just summoned. So he had a full another army. I'm not even kidding. Like probably 40
He
demons.
basically just went,
Keeper.
you know when you were playing like on an old Nintendo 64 or something and there was the reset button if things didn't go your way,
Yep.
you were like, fuck,
Yep.
reset GoldenEye, let's do it again. That's effectively what he did, except for War Dollies. He was just like, fuck it, it's not going really well. Reset, put my army back on the table, all right, let's go again.
Yep.
It just
So, a good friend of the show, Isaiah Remchek, who's the boy wonder of the Midwest. He's 17 years old, and he's always taking almost top 10 in a lot of tournaments he goes to. I think he was 12th at NashCon this year with Slanesh. He was telling me that in his game 4, at the end of turn 1, he had accrued 72 depravity points. And his dad comes over and goes, "Oh yeah, I mean that's kind of good, but in our practice game, you put down 96 depravity points turn 1."
He had Isaiah had when we were playing our game, he had 8 command points and 62 depravity points in turn 2, and I was like, all right, this kid, because everyone says the big argument is just take shooting, and I was like, I don't know anyone who's got enough shooting that can kill 2 keepers of secrets and fucking 4 other characters in one
turn,
go.
Yeah.
That's all you need. You need to kill. If you kill all the small characters, then the next turn is just 3 keepers of secrets, and even then, that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
It's not like no one has enough damage output to do it in a turn, and that's when you need to do it in a turn.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you double them, it still seems like it's a pretty fucking long. It seems like a gamble, but everything I'm playing against Slanesh is like a huge
The
gamble.
only armies that I've seen that do well against them are armies that either have a lot of shooting or a lot of mortal wound output, and just about everything is 1 wound. Like those armies can.
Right.
So it's
or like my dispossessed do okay because my heroes are only 5 wounds. So
That's hard.
fuck you.
I've never seen.
Yeah,
it played.
they will take you by
Well,
surprise.
seeing it played and seeing it set up look about the same.
Oh, okay. So nothing happened.
Right.
I'll have you know
that
that
is
we are
about
very
how far
swift
they
when
go.
we want to be. Maybe.
But it sounds like you had a pretty good experience overall.
Oh, dude, everyone was awesome. The people were great, and that's what makes it. Because when you're getting waffle stomped, and then the dude is also a douchebag, it sucks. But everyone was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't have a single game that I didn't like. I mean, like, I don't like to gripe about AoS. I never like to gripe. It's the thing I like to do. So it's hard to like be like, man, this is so bad. I don't like when this stuff happens to me. But like on the overall, bro, like Slanesh is tough for me, and I have a hard time wrapping my head around it.
It's a puzzle the meta right now is still working on, and since they didn't really get any changes in their points the way that even just Feck and Skaven got when the new GHB came out, or the points FAQs came out, it's tough to swallow probably for another couple
I think
months.
that for me is where it's flagging as a problem, right? Is that it's a bit like when did you guys ever cop the pointy end of the Warp Fire fucking Coven thing, whatever, Goutfire Scorch?
I had like a non-engaging army that I didn't have to deal with that.
So like it basically for those who don't remember it, and in the chat, just if you remember it, just like RIP, they used to just deploy entirely off the table, bring it all up, and then they didn't even have to roll to hit. They just rolled for how many mortal wounds they did to you. So effectively, they just took your army off the board. They could.
Skaven still does that.
But they're not as powerful now because finally the formations are pointed fairly and the models are expensive enough, and you can't just give Storm Fiends tons of Warp Fire throwers. So
agreed.
But basically, the reason it sucked wasn't because it was super powerful. It was because it stopped you playing the game against it. And that's the thing that frustrates the fuck out of me about Slanesh, is that they've got so many abilities that stop you fighting them in the combat phase, or they stop you from playing the game, which was a problem with Flesh Eater Courts and Gristlegore, like piling in and attacking twice for a command point, or piling in and attacking after they died. They changed that to make that more fair, and we've seen people be less frustrated with Flesh Eater Courts.
More, or at least more interactive.
Exactly, yeah. And the problem is that Slanesh is non-interactive, and then when you finally do kill their shit, it's so easy for them to just be like, well, let me pull this other one that I've got out of the oven. There we go.
But there's, quick shout out in the chat, there's a really good tactic. So one of the main tactics people talk about with Slanesh is either kill the heroes or bring shooting. There's a really good tactic. Someone brought it up in the chat. It's VanilJSAS _. He asked if you've tried allying in a tray of Jägermeister for your opponent to deal with in Slanesh.
So I couldn't do that in my round 3 because my opponent was actually below legal drinking age, and his dad was there. And I don't know if I wanted to beat up his dad.
Fair. But I mean, you could have just given it. I remember I played a bloke I played a bloke in Australia who he ended up he's one of Australia's. He won CanCon, in fact, the last CanCon, 200 players. Not that I'm bragging, but Australia's biggest tournament. But he won it with Khorne, and I played him at Gods of War.
Who is this person?
Sorry, his name is Matt, and he's a very, very talented Khorne player.
Sounds like you walked all over him.
Well, I didn't walk all over him. I got him mega, mega drunk. Because it had been a while since we'd played a game against each other, and then we're matched up against each other, and I turn up at the table, and he was like, mate, I've been looking forward to this for ages. He's got 2 beers in his hands, and I was like, great fucking idea. I'll go get a couple as well. And so I went and bought 2 beers, and it was at that point, as I was carrying them back, that I was like, oh, he bought one for each of us. And then we drank those 2 in the first battle round, and then we went to a battle round each until the end of the game. And by the end, I won't lie, it had been a higher drinking game than even I would normally do for game 2. But like I had a little touch of the pink on my nose, but somebody walked past and was like, oh yeah, boy, because there was just a pile of empty glasses beside us. And
a wizard staff that would reach to the second story.
Yeah, it was righteous. And someone came over, because I hadn't been really paying attention. I'd just been drinking and playing the game. We were laughing and having a really good time. It was a really fun game. And then someone came over and was like, oh, Jesus, you boys have been putting it away. And I was like, oh, yeah, we've done a pretty good job. And then he turns to Matt and he just like looks at Matt and is like, mate, are you okay? And then I looked up and took in his face for the first time, and he'd gone from this healthy, like, tan glow to bright red. Like, his whole face was just a beetroot. And anyway, he actually did end up winning the game as well. He took the game by, like, 1 point. It was a really tight game, really, really good. So I didn't get him drunk to the point that he lost the game against me. But he did go up to the TO afterwards when he was submitting our scores and was like, please don't make me play Dan again. So
see, I feel like every once in a while I'll get those games, and I don't usually try to use alcoholism to my advantage. I think I probably should better, but I'll run up against someone else who is just as depraved as I am. So I played the guy who took second this year at NashCon, Ty. we had a challenge this past Brew City Brawl, which was in May, and we probably put away 12 to 15 drinks a piece. And I feel like if you and I ever played each other in tournament, that would exactly happen.
You wouldn't make it to whatever the next round was.
No, there would be no next round.
You'll struggle to get to the breathing point of it.
Time
You're right.
table?
Oh, I've definitely fallen asleep at the table, under the table. I finished the game early and slept under the table.
Didn't you also like just tell the guy like who was beating you like it's a draw, bro, it's okay?
No. Let me set the record straight here. So this was Adepticon before last. This was Adepticon 2018.
Okay.
And I've been getting kind of lit. I've been drinking a lot. I think I was 1-1, so I wasn't in it to win it, but I was definitely there to keep drinking. And I continued to drink, and my opponent I don't think was a big drinker, so every time I brought back 2 beers, I'd say 1/3 of the time he would take that beer, and he was lovely. He was a super sweet guy. And that means 2/3 of the time I had gone and gotten myself 2 beers. And so I think turn 3, I was losing. I was losing not awfully, but I was losing. I was like approaching handily losing.
Yeah,
let's
right.
say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was footily losing. And so I think at a point I just said, I can't keep playing. Looking at the table, I think either you're going to win or it's a draw. What do you think? And him being a polite Canadian who came to Chicago to play Warhammer, is like, I don't know. What do you think? And so I said to him, well, how about this? On a 4-up, you win, and 1 through 3, it's a draw.
Right.
And he, again, polite Canadian, said okay. And then I hit that 1, and I got the draw, baby. Got my secondaries, winning.
Mate, look, if you can't...
Promptly fell asleep on the table, and one of my my buddies, Anthony Polcascio, had to clean up all of my models, which were strewn all over the table. I had 60 bloodletters. I had all sorts of little heroes everywhere. My dice were everywhere. He cleaned all of it up.
Oh.
So I think what I'm trying to say is I didn't have to do any cleanup. I got my draw,
This is a win-win, but
and I got a good night's sleep.
But it cost you best sports.
I think it probably did.
Yeah, it cost you best sports.
Which seems
Yeah,
appropriate.
but I mean, look, don't play the game, play the player, right? Like, you were just playing poker. You're like, Canadian. He's agreeable. I can take advantage of this. Which is, yeah, you know.
Poker?
Yeah.
I barely even know her.
You two are the bromance that the War Dolly community needs, and I'm so glad that I've been witness to it. Look, it's just about time to wrap it up. But there's 2 things that I always finish any show with. First is shameless plugs. So, gentlemen, shamelessly plug yourselves. Because fuck it, like, you're both amazing. Rage of Sigmar is awesome. So tell us what we should... Wait, when I say shamelessly plug...
We are the Rage of Sigmar.
Oh, baby.
Listen to our fucking podcast, or I'm going to find you in the night.
That was
that too loud?
beautiful and tactile. Like, that sent shivers down my spine that just ended in my loins, and they feel frothy.
If you liked what you heard today, you can find more of our content at Big J Bulls on Twitter, as well as A Hymn of Serpents, which is where you can find Joe. That's AHYMN of Serpents on Twitter. Also, support us by following all of our subsidiary podcasts, which includes the Honest Wargamer Network, as well as the Dwellers Below podcast, Cubic Shenanigans podcast, and whatever the fuck Black Sun is doing these days.
Yeah.
Hashtag fuck Bad Diesel.
Is that, your next podcast, please do an ASMR podcast where it's just you guys.
Oh, dude, we love Billie Eilish.
You guys doing like scraping models right next to the microphone, and just so that people can be like,
Oh no, we already got Dave Witek doing that by chewing food into the microphone.
oh, okay, yeah, good. Like, really tactile, very tasty. Yeah, good.
If you like hearing this noise,
Yep.
Check out what the fuck Garage
Yeah.
Hammer, right? That's them.
they're killing it in the game, bro. Be
Beautiful.
real
Well, and
performance.
that's it. Sometimes you don't want to eat the food; you just want to hear it happening. But look, I always like to end every show with a very, very important question. So,
If it's why Warhammer, I'm gonna punch you.
sorry.
Don't pull a Tyler Emerson. Don't ask why
No,
Warhammer.
fuck
I
no.
swear to fucking
Fuck
God.
no. And this question goes to you, gentlemen, and to everybody in the chat. So if you're on the Twitch chat right now, as always,
Chat.
this goes out to you now. These are the hard questions. So that's why they come in at the end of the show, and I will confirm with you, gentlemen, that I haven't actually given you any prep time on this because fuck it. That's why the situation I like to put all of my guests in, the point where you have no idea. So this question, it's got a little preamble. So the preamble is this. Everybody has that story of a crazy ex, right? You know, and if you don't have a story of a crazy ex, you may be the crazy ex.
Or you're a virgin.
Or also you have no crazy ex. That's true. And it is war dollies, so potentially no crazy exes because we are all the crazy people. But the question is this. In all of the mortal realms, who is your crazy ex and why? Like, who is your crazy ex and why? It's a toughie. You've got to think about. For me, I'm pretty sure mine is Drycha. Because no matter what I do, I can't make her fucking happy. 1 minute she's angry and we're fighting, then we have makeup sex, then she throws beetles in my eyes and I'm like, what the fuck? And she's like, no, you were supposed to keep the beetles. And I'm like, then why did you throw them at me? And she's just impossible for me to know what she wants at any given time. She's just such high maintenance. And then she's always like, we need to put more plants in the house. And I'm like, well, maybe that's why we've got all these flies. So basically, it's my crazy ex is Drycha, because she is emotionally unstable and doesn't know what she fucking wants. And for that reason, I have no idea. Gentlemen, over to you. Who is your crazy ex and why?
Yeah.
We're going to need a quick moment.
You need a quick moment. We're just consulting. You can have one each for the record.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have one each.
All right.
Okay. But we agree on.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a very special crazy ex from the Warhammer universe. And it's mainly because I didn't want my good friend Ranjith to know that Neferata is my crazy ex. Yes, that's right. So when you think about me coming down to CanCon in your lovely country, Australia, know that I was raw dogging the woman you love for a very long time. And she still loves me very much. So
He's trying to kill himself with a pillow.
So if you think you're going to come at me at CanCon and win, just know that when your army's on the table, Neferata will be thinking of me. So don't think putting that Archon the Black on there, because you know he loves her too. He's not going to come
Once
at
you
me.
go black, you never go back.
So just remember, Randy,
Blandy,
the fruit
the
tingler,
Nacho Man Savage.
Nacho Man, that the nature boy, Joe Pagano, was once in the land of your desires.
I also love that in your background story there, she still wants you. Like, she's still like sending you messages when she's drunk, being like, "Hey, thinking about you."
Hey, you up?
Yeah, what you up to? Great, good. Yep, that's
All right. So
that's.
I've actually been pretty lucky. I don't have a crazy ex, which might mean that I am a crazy ex. But I have a funny story about an ex being crazy. I had a first date with this girl. We went out and I can't remember what. I think we had there was like a good seafood place in San Francisco.
This is a Warhammer thing.
I'm not talking about that. And so basically, I asked her if she had some gum, and she picked up on what that cue meant. And we ended up back in the backseat of her Prius, and she was rather indisposed in the ability to talk at a certain point in our exchange, let's say. And her knee hit my cell phone. Now, why my cell phone was at my ankles, I'll leave up to you to decide. But it turned on Siri. And do you know what she did? Have I told you this story?
No.
She had the wherewithal to remove me from her mouth and say, "Call mom," and then went right back to work. And I almost died. Luckily, iPhones are really poorly made, and it didn't pick up what she had said. However, I've never been more afraid in my entire life.
That really happened?
Yeah, it did.
How long have we been friends?
Jesus.
I met you probably like 6 months after that happened.
And you didn't tell me about it?
No, but I wanted to say it for a good time. No, my actual answer for my crazy ex-girlfriend is going to be Slanesh. In that I've always loved Slanesh models. I've been so excited about them getting a new keeper. I think the Fiends are awesome. I think everything in the new line is great. I don't really want to put together a lot of the things. I don't want to put in a lot of the work that a lot of the models entail, but I've been collecting slowly. I've got 3 of the Creature Caster, the original Spider Demons. Like, I'm really excited to paint them up and do them. I want to do a dual army with Kane. I like have a lot of cool ideas. And then she got hot. And I've been like waiting for my chance to pounce, and then everyone's just like in there slamming it.
She blew up.
Exactly.
So you got no chance.
Football team in front of that train.
Like, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm all about that." I was like, "Oh, so now if I do that, I'm gonna be like that guy who's like piling on." It's like, "Oh, I think Mila Kunis is super hot." It's like, no, I've always had a thing for her, and we've always had a special connection. But everyone's just like taking her all over the country, just beating everyone's face in with her, and I just don't know if I can handle
don't know
that
if
now. So I don't know
you're
what I'm
not
going to do.
willing to share.
No, absolutely not. So I'm sort of hoping that she gets fat
Severely
now that she
nerds?
thinks
Yeah.
now that she thinks she's like hot. I'm hoping she actually gets kind of fat and like
Maybe
turns
has
out-
a kid
like,
with one of those guys that
everyone
just
finds
using her.
out she's a total bitch, and then I'll take her back. Like I'll be here with
Right,
open
yeah.
arms. But as of right now, like I just can't do it.
Fair. And look, that's understandable, right? Like you want it to be special. You want it to mean something. You don't want to.
Right. I want that keeper to her knee to hit my iPhone and for her to say call mom.
Yeah. But you also don't want to know that she's doing that in the backseat of the car with everybody else. That's the thing, right?
Exactly. No, I want to be her.
You want to feel special. The chat's dropped a couple in there. So Lady Oleander, because she looks better with a bag over her head, which is
Who said that? Who said that?
that was Hobby Heresy. Or because I constantly get names wrong, I'd love to just call it Hobby Hearsay. But yeah, it's not too bad.
Oh, BWG Sean Feather says mini wargaming. That wasn't his answer.
Okay.
No, that's not his crazy.
Oh right, yeah,
just-
that's just
The death throw shoes. Answer
Age of
yes.
Sigmar's crazy ex-girlfriend. But yeah, Bito is we'll get with you in the Prius. So you better rub your junk on the car and run. Apparently, so you know that's good. Good to know that it's you're encouraging more people to engage in Prius activity.
I just really hope I didn't tell that story too loud in my house with my wife just downstairs.
Yeah, and also Tristan, I want you to know that I'm not drunk yet, but when I am drunk, I'm coming for you.
And given who we know your ex
All the way up to Prince Albert's Island.
Yeah, well,
Everyone's got a dick piercing.
yeah.
Every
It's a
single.
good way to do it.
That's impressive.
But look, that's going to be it from us today. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for
You were
being with
recording
us.
this?
Yeah, no, definitely. This is going straight in my spank bank. Because just
Smart. Call mom.
it's also the middle of the night for her in Australia as well, so this is going to be extra weird. But yeah, no, thank you very much, gents. This has been a fucking dream. I imagine you guys probably want to rest after NashCon now.
Yeah, today's our day of rest. Today's our Sabbath.
Actually, tomorrow I start a 6-hour drive to Asheville, and I just continue driving long-hour days until I get back to New York.
And I go back to just letting corporate America siphon my soul bit by bit so that I can afford this giant mansion.
But to capitalism.
To capitalism.
To
yeah,
capitalism.
Cheers. Thanks, gentlemen. And to everybody who's been in the chat, thank you for joining us. Take it easy. Have a lovely weekend. See you later, boys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye, guys.